You're listening to the Estheticians Learning More podcast with Brittany Hageman, episode number 209. Welcome back. Happy Monday. If you're watching the video, excuse my hair and appearance. I'm going to go work out after this. But I want today to talk about something that I've talked a number of times about with a number of clients, something that I think is really helpful to have in your business and to have as a goal. And something that I think people have a lot of drama about and you don't really need to. And that is money management, particularly savings, having business savings. I have talked about money in this podcast before. I'm not a financial expert. I've never been trained. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a bookkeeper. But being in business for myself for almost 8 years, and also coaching dozens of estheticians in their businesses, I have learned things that are helpful around money. And one of the things that can be really, really important that can seem really hard to do is to have a business savings account. And I want to remind you, if you haven't listened to podcasts about money I've done in the past, that having money, having debt, having savings, not having money, having credit card debt, whatever the circumstances are, has nothing to do with you and your value as a human being. And people who have debt are not bad people, and people who have savings and lots of cash are not good people. Those things do not affect morality at all. Money, having it or not having it, has nothing to do with morality. There are lots of really, really, really horrible people who have thousands, if not millions, if not billions of dollars that have no morals, and all they care about is that, whatever they care about. There are lots and lots of people who are really good moral people and are in debt, don't have any money, don't have any saved, nothing, no money. And of course, there's people in between, right? Of course, there are really rich people who are great people. Of course, there are really poor people who are terrible people, right? So I just want to remind you that, because I think when we start talking about money, that's always, if you feel like you are quote unquote bad with money, then you think you are bad at money, and then you are bad. And not true. Just because you don't have a skill yet, just because you either were taught things about money that have not been helpful for you, or you weren't taught at all about money and you've just been flying by the seat of your pants, or whatever the circumstances, these are skills that you don't have. But just because you don't have a skill has nothing to do with your morality or your value or your worth as a human, right? So this is not comparable, but this is the best analogy I can think of, is I cannot do a cartwheel. And I have also taken great comfort in knowing that Taylor Swift cannot also do a cartwheel. And it's just a skill that I don't have. Some people can do crazy great cartwheels, and I could learn to do a cartwheel, I'm sure, if someone wanted to spend time teaching me. But it's a skill, right? And, we don't want to shame ourselves for skills we don't have, but we want to be open to maybe learning a skill that would be helpful for you. And knowing how to save money in your business is a skill that would be helpful for you as a business owner. There are so many reasons it's helpful. I'm not telling you this to shame you if you don't have it and to send you into a spiral of oh my gosh, adding salt to the wound for you. But the biggest reasons that I encourage my clients to start savings and start learning how to save is that if there are unexpected expenses in your business, if there are slow months, if there are, times that you're sick and you cannot work, you get a really bad flu and you're out for 7 days, or your child is sick, or your mom, there's times where you actually cannot work. It's nice to have the savings that you have at least money that you can pay your bills. It creates a lot of comfort. If someone who's never had savings in their life, it can really help with your nervous system and feeling safe. With that, how are we going to do it? The first priority is to be booked, to make a profit, to not spend every penny that comes in. And the only way to know that is if you are looking at your numbers and you're aware of how much money is coming in, where it's coming in, which means it's from services or from products, and how much expenses you have. And yes, you as a business owner do have to spend money to make money. Like, you need to spend money on your space and your tools and your table and all of that. Some equipment. But, and I've talked about this before, but I really want to remind you that if you want to make more money in your business, buying an expensive device is often not the route. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying you have to think about what's really happening in your business. So if you have a lash business and you have a lot of lash clients and you want to transition to facials, buying a HydraFacial machine is not a great idea. Not out the gate. You want to do regular facials and see how many people you can convert to regular facials from lashes, or, nice, facials that are corrective or whatever, that they have the money to spend on facials. They have the money to spend on product. They are interested in investing money on their skin. Because people who invest money on their lashes do not necessarily want to invest money on their skin. It's not the same. And you consistently build up that money, that you have proof that you have people that are spending product and service money on their skin, hundreds of dollars a month, consistently. And you do that for a year or whatever, and you have 30 people coming in for monthly facials, spending money on their facials and on their products, then you could invest in a machine like a HydraFacial or something, a device. The problem is when it comes to savings, the decision making that can be challenging is you may have savings, and as opposed to keeping that savings for what it really needs to be, you're making decisions that are not necessarily good for your business at the time. And so this is something that I often talk through with clients. Sometimes I will encourage them, like, you need to get that device. This would be great for your business. The money, But like, if I talk to a new esthetician that are like, I'm gonna, whatever, buy whatever device, I'm very cautious of that. Not saying that I haven't seen to be successful, but it's not as common to be successful. So you're making money. You're easily covering your expenses. So we're talking about the goal of the savings account. Make money, easily covering your expenses. We're not buying things to be trendy with other estheticians or to seem like up to date. That is not the first priority. The first priority is to make sure your clients are getting the results that they want. That's your first priority. Making sure that they are happy with their services, they are loving it. I like to tell the story that when I was in San Diego, I became aware of DMK. And I really want to make sure that this is very clear before I continue with this story. if you use DMK and you love it, please keep using it and loving it. This is not, I'm not trying to be anything and dissuade anyone ever about it. But I became aware of DMK, and I do believe that the results are really incredible. I've seen them. It's awesome. And I went and got a DMK treatment, and I hated it. I hated it so much. I was so uncomfortable. I could not wait for the enzyme to come off. I never wanted to do it again. And I really had to sit there and think, like, do I want to spend my business savings on a line that is great, that maybe my clients, some of them would really love, that I do not love? But I see so many people loving it, getting success with it. It's this whole thing. And I had to really think about, well, what are my current clients asking for? And they weren't asking for anything different. No one would, like, the only thing that they would have liked is for me to offer microneedling. But I was in California, so I couldn't legally. And I wasn't interested in learning microneedling because I'm not in California. I'd have to be all under the, hide it all, and I don't want to deal with all that. So I was like, I'm not doing it. That would be the only thing that really was something I consistently heard about from my clients. And so it was like, I could spend all this money and time and training to do something that is well respected and loved in the esthetician community, but isn't needed by my clients, isn't requested by my clients. I'm not losing clients to DMK. They're not clients that are usually coming in and being like, you know what, Brittany, I've heard about this thing called DMK. I found someone who does it and I love it. I'm going to go there instead. Like, that wasn't happening. There was, if that was happening, that would obviously be a different situation. And so really looking at what's happening in my business, not what's happening outside of my business, to make financial decisions. So I encourage you to, if you are starting to make real cash in your business and you know who you are, or if you're just trying to stay ahead of your expenses, I really want you to be thoughtful about how you spend your money. And it can be really easy once you're starting to get serious cash in your business to just not really know where it's going. But I want you to have a savings goal of how much money you're saving for your business. I also think it's important to talk about this with like an accountant and with taxes and things like that. And like having like paying tax on that money and everything is like super important to think about these things and figure out ways to do this. But I recommend having minimum 3 months of savings of your business expenses, ideally 6 months. So if your rent, basic supplies, like 2x2s and basic back bar supplies and basic retail reorders, if that's like $3,000 a month, you want minimum $9,000 saved for 6 months. Now, this can be in your personal, like you can have a personal savings account for this. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the business. Like, again, for taxes, it can be money that you've paid yourself. There's different ways to go about it, but somewhere you need to have access to this money. And that may seem super overwhelming with where you are right now. If your business expenses are around $3,000 a month and you're making around $10,000 a month, you can't just save that overnight, right? Like, I get that. You have to pay yourself. You have to live. You have to pay your own personal bills. But again, I want you to think about your spending, not just in your business life, but in your personal life. So if you don't have business savings and ideally personal savings, I want you to be really thoughtful about vacations, buying new cars that, have high payments, getting your nails done, getting other personal services that you really enjoy but you don't need, buying coffee out a lot. I know people like really hate the coffee. I don't hate getting coffee every day, but I want you to think about expenses that you have that you don't need. And I want you to think about not, oh my gosh, I'm trying to save money so I can't get my nails done, but I'm giving myself a gift for the future so that I can get my nails done and not be worried about how I'm going to pay my bills. Because once you have that money saved, you can decide how to spend your other money however you want because you have the cash. You're not worrying about if next month is a slow month, how are you going to pay your bills? And I cannot express to you, especially if you have a business that's up and down, up and down. I've been doing this for years. Knowing that you have cash and you're not so desperate for every penny actually makes you show up better in your business and you actually make more money. It's a thing. I've seen it happen with myself. I've seen it happen with many of the estheticians that I've worked with. But if you're so desperate to make money because if you don't make this money, you cannot live, it's hard to show up in your business and it's hard not to show up graspy and desperate. And people can sense graspy and desperate energy, and that's not amazing. So with that, I want you to think about the gift that you can give your future self by having savings. And that may take journaling, that may just take a lot of self-talk, that may Post-its around your house, taking Amazon off of your phone, things that will help you hit those goals, help you not spend money on things you don't actually need that you just want. And I can tell you that I have done this so much as an adult. As a single person, I did this. If you listen to my podcast, you knew I graduated college in 2008 when there was no jobs, nowhere, no one was hiring. I couldn't even get a job at Starbucks. I ended up having 3 side jobs because I couldn't get a full-time job anywhere for like 2 years. And it could just I was just barely getting by. I didn't have any savings. I also wasn't spending my money on anything. Like I wasn't getting my hair done. I was just barely getting through the day. Then I started to make more money as an adult. And then my husband and I, when we got married, he decided he was going to be a pilot. So that was a massive loan and a massive lifestyle change. We went from living in a 1-bedroom apartment with parking and a little yard for our dog, to living in a studio apartment with, we brought our dog, but we had to take her on, we didn't have that yard luxury anymore. We had to take her out every time she had to go outside. And we lived there for over a year, and did we live there even for 2 years? I cannot remember, honestly. And I remember waking up in the morning, I was sleeping and my husband's eating cereal 3 feet from me because we were in a studio, and just hearing him eat cereal and wanting to kill him. He not only woke me up, but then I'm waking up to someone eating cereal, which is one of the worst sounds in the world. It's a horrible sound. And then, I can keep telling you examples over, he became a pilot, and then when you first became a pilot, you make literally no money. And so then, me working and him working, and then we had a baby, so many times we've just been living as little expenses as possible so that we can either pay our bills or get the goals we want. And we're on the other side of that now. His hard work is paid off. My business is doing really well. Our next goal is saving to move back to California. That goal is a fun goal, not a we need it to survive. But we still sacrifice a lot because that goal is important to us. We really do want to go back to California. That's where our friends are. Well, we have friends here, of course, that we've made, but that's where our home is. We consider Southern California our home. And it creates sacrifice. But you have to focus on what you are going after, or you will become so resentful. And then usually if you become resentful around saving money, you become very spendy because you're like, screw it. I'm going to, I'm going to go and buy this. I'm going to go and buy that. And I'm going to do this because I'm tired and I'm working really hard and I don't make any money. Or I don't get to spend any of my money. And I've done that before, so I know that because this is my experience. I'm not saying this out of judgment or something that I haven't personally experienced, because it's 100% my experience. So I just want to keep that in mind while I'm telling you this. I'm not like, this is why I'm great and you're wrong because I know all these things. No, I've lived them, experienced them. I know. It's hard. But I will tell you, the security and the joy when you have thousands of dollars in the bank saved is incredible. It is an incredible feeling because it does create security. Money doesn't have anything to do with morality, but it can create a feeling of unsafeness, that you're unsafe. You don't know when the next, shoe is going to drop. You don't know when the next big bill is coming. And it feels like a snowball. And if you can get out of that avalanche that is growing by being really mindful of how you spend your money and then how you earn your money. So that's the last part of this podcast is, be mindful on your spending. And then you're being very purposeful about how you want money to come in. I know that can sound really okay, what are you talking about? Kind of woo-woo-y. But what that means is if you are fully booked and not everyone's buying product, really digging into each client and why they are not buying product. Are they a Dove soap client, or are they just not really it just hasn't connected with them? Really figuring that out. Figuring out how to market products to them in a way that's easy and fun and interesting to them. That is what you're focusing on. If you have clients that are booked, you're busy, you're selling product, you can't really make any more money in your treatment room, then it's focusing on virtual online sales and being really intentional how you're showing up in those areas with the goals of making money in that way. Now, this is hard work. Okay, this is not you sit down and you're like, I really want to, sell online more. Let's say that as an example. It's a goal I have a lot of my clients that have. It's work. It is showing up online and selling every day, multiple times a day, dealing with the discomfort, dealing with the potential negative comments that someone may have on a video or a story or something of yours, dealing with the crickets of posting and not getting the feedback that you expect. That is hard, but if you want the goal, you have to do that. I recently had a TikTok that was totally just a joke TikTok. It took me seconds to make. I didn't really ever think about it. I kind of just posted it. I didn't think about it. I think because the trending audio, it got picked up by TikTok and it didn't get viral, but it got pushed out to people who don't follow me. And people had opinions about it and were a little bit rude. And it really I was really surprised. What the heck just happened? And it hurt my feelings. And, because I'm a human being. But then I had to in coaching myself and working through some of the things that I teach my clients, I had to think about business owners that I respect, women entrepreneurs that I really think are great, and think about the backlash that they have received in their business over and over again. Like, I can't compare myself, but if I compare myself to Taylor Swift, which I can't compare what I do to what she does, but the amount of backlash that woman has received daily for 20 years is unbelievable. But how else would you can't have both. You can't have the fame and the money and the notoriety and the awards without that. I mean, maybe if you're a man. But if you're a woman, that's not a thing currently in our society. I think about like Sarah Blakely, who started, I can't remember the name of the company, but like the compression underwear. And the woman who started Sprinkles and now has a different business as well. I can't remember her name. Clearly, my brain fog is really strong. But I think of these different people who I respect, and I've seen their success, and I think of how much shit they've had to just hear people's opinions that are not necessarily like, they're not helpful. They're not like constructive feedback. They're just people saying crazy things. But what do I want? Do I want to be a business owner, or do I want to, just have a job? Because being a business owner, this is the hard part of it. And there's no escaping it. There's no avoiding it. This is it. I've had clients that have gotten like crazy, weird Yelp reviews from people they've never met, or Google, like different circumstances, different clients have experienced that is really negative having a business. And the more well-known you become and the more eyes you have on your stuff, the more chance it's going to happen. That's the cost of doing business. That's how business is. If you're around people are going to act like people and do crazy things, right? Like it is what it is. And so if you don't want to experience that, then you need to just work as an esthetician for someone who does all of that for you, and you just get to do the job and enjoy the job and go home and not have to worry about that stress. But being an entrepreneur means having a goal in your business and going after it with a fierceness. And also recognizing that you're gonna have hard days, and that's gonna be okay. So to wrap up, saving goals, the two parts is being aware of your expenses and being intentional and fiercely driving, making money, so that you have extra money that you can save. The extra money will give you security, will give you a safety net, and will actually help you make more money in the future because you're not so worried about money. And I have to say, as someone who has been so worried about money multiple times in my adult life, and also not at all worried about money and very relaxed and feeling very secure that there's plenty of money, feeling secure and there's plenty of money feels a lot better than being really worried and being like, ooh, all the time. It's better for your nervous system. It helps you show up better in your life, in your business, in all the areas. And again, it doesn't mean if you have the money saved that you're a better person or even a better business owner. It's nothing to do with being better or worse. It's a gift that you give yourself. And that is why you do it. That is it for today. I'll be back for next week. Have a great week. Bye.